Let's make a quick point about God, what I'm gonna do to that thing when I meet it, and why I have those views. Me specifically. I hope all of this comes together, but this one's gonna be a bit more esoteric. So, as far as I know, my dad spent most of his adult life as a practicing Catholic. He dabbled in other forms of mysticism. The Church of Scientology was chasing him for a while. They said that he broke one of their machines, but like me reading, I understand that those things are super finicky. He also had a lot of books about mysticism, some of which I have. That's what most of these are. My mother describes herself as a pagan, but her beliefs they slot better into a vague sort of animism. She believes that everything has a spirit, that if you treat the spirit of that thing, or just the thing, well, then it will respond positively to you, and if you treat the spirit of a thing negatively, then it will remember that. I think Mom chooses to identify herself as a pagan, specifically in opposition to Christian faiths, because she understands Christian faiths to be oppressive. Specifically towards the gender and sexual minority community. Something that's going to become very important later. I don't really remember God being a part of life, or belief in divine things being very important. Like, my family did Christmas, and we did Easter. Easter was actually one of the more important holidays in our family, because it was a special time for our dad. It's when most of his fond memories were. He would talk about drinking peach schnapps with his family, and how that's one of the only good memories he had of his family. No, God first enters my life in 2005, in the form of the Westborough Baptist Church. I come from a family of soldiers. My dad was a soldier, my grandpa was a soldier, my uncle was a soldier. My other uncle was supposed to be a soldier, but he broke his leg during basic training. That uncle that I have, who was in the army, he died. Well, he was killed. He was shot in the back in the Middle East, both literally and figuratively. The powers that be betrayed him, and he was actually literally shot in the back. And in 2005, the Westborough Baptist Church decided to come to a memorial in his honor and talk about how God said he deserved to die. Couple things. First off, my uncle was not gay. By the account of the people who would have known, including his mother and all of his siblings, and his wife. And second, as far as the Westborough Baptist Church goes, this was before they were sued and forced to tone their rhetoric down. So, not only were they explicitly naming my uncle, but they also were explicitly naming my grandmother as someone who was worthy of death. Which is kind of funny, because her views might align with theirs more than either of them are comfortable with. Also, this uncle of mine, who was a soldier, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that he was one of the most decent people that I've ever known. My childhood was very difficult, but some of the tools that I have, both mentally and psychologically, maybe, those tools are things that I have because of him. Not all of them, maybe not even most of them, but he was the first person I can remember telling me that it was okay to be different. That being not normal in a way that other people couldn't describe didn't make me a bad person. So, having these people tell me that he was burning in hell kind of provoked my ire. So I went through an atheist phase because of that, reasoning that these people were lunatics, and that nothing they said should be taken seriously. But then something else happened in my life. I joined a church. So this was my senior year of high school. I grew up in a, not a very small town, but a small-ish town. I think it was like 7,000 people, maybe 10,000 people. It was a mining town. One of those Illinois mining towns that, Illinois is famous for mining towns. And Ron, in his senior year of high school, had some encounters with church people. And they didn't strike me as being bad people. They were trying to help the community. Being as my only other major experience up to that point had been with the Westborough Baptist Church, I was intrigued. And so I decided to look into them and go in their things, and they were nice people. They were nice to me, at least. And I can't tell you how exceptionally strange that was. To me, at the time. As I said in the past, my life has been so miserable as to stretch the limits of credulity. But even if I understand now what they were doing and why they were doing it, it was love bombing. But even if I understand that, it's still kind of surreal to me mentally. So I spent about a year going to this church and getting to know these people. They were good people. But that changed. That changed eventually. At some point, the people in this church, mostly the young people, which in hindsight is the more unsettling thing, they started talking about lynching the gay people. And Dan Brown, incidentally. The Da Vinci Code had just came out. And I decided that I was not going to be part of that. I confronted a couple of people that I knew about it who I considered friends, and while they didn't sign on to the whole lynching thing, they did say that gay people were sinners and were going to burn in hell. And I decided that I wasn't going to have anything to do with that. Because the worst people whom I'd ever encountered in my life used that as an excuse to persecute one of the best people I'd known in my life. All of this is personal experience. I can sit here and tell you, oh, I'm an enemy of oppression, and oh, I'm going to stand up for the rights of minorities, but what this all comes down to is personal experience. Very visceral personal experiences, even. It's funny. I said before, I said in another video that, if the God and the devil do exist, which I'm not sure they do, then they would only exist so that human beings can kill them. And when I say I'm not sure they exist, I don't just mean that in an atheistic sense. That belief is very specifically meant to be a humanistic one. I believe that somebody went and killed God at some point. Because I believe that the Westborough Baptist Church, as far as God goes at least, had it right. God is necessarily cruel and unjust. And the only way to fix that is to remove God from the equation entirely. If someone hasn't killed God yet, then that's what I'm gonna do. When it comes time for me to go to the pearly gates, about 70 years from now, I'm not going to explain my sins. I'm going to break in and break the neck of the thing that made this world. Because it made this world wrong. And it blamed the things in this world for that wrongness. And that's just kind of shitty, I think the technical definition of the belief I hold in regards to God is misotheism. At least that's how I describe myself. It's not just that I hate God, it's that I consider God to be a very personal enemy. In the same way that some Christians consider their relationship with God to be a personal relationship. I mean, it's not that different, really. I also want to stress that this doesn't mean that I consider the followers of God to be my enemies. Again, I was in a church, and I understand, on some level, how these people think. And they believe they're in a personal relationship with this thing, and maybe they are. But if they are, then that relationship is abusive, and they are victims. My enemy is the thing that made this broken world, and then demanded that we fix ourselves, not the people who suffer in that world. So that's a hell of a thing. Let's unpack that a bit, because I didn't just come to this belief through personal experience. Well, I mean, it's mostly personal experience, but there's a reason. There are rational reasons that I am expressing myself in this way. My general experience with people who believe in supernatural forces is that they consider those forces to be, in some way or another, an extension of themselves. They consider it to be a part of their being. For the Christians, it's that they have a personal relationship with God. Not all of them, but a lot of them, and certainly the most annoying ones. For other people, like animists like my mother, it's that they believe in treating things like they are humane, and that if they do, they will be treated kindly in return. I've said before, and I intend to make a whole video explaining how the beliefs that a person have serve a purpose, and how you can make conclusions based on what those ideas are. The belief in God serves a purpose. And that purpose is explaining the world that we live in. And why it shouldn't change, in spite of the fact that it's clearly fucked up. This is something I've spoken about before too, in one of my other better videos, A Sin is an Act of Violence Against God. These people believe that God made the world perfect, and any problem that you have with the world is a problem with you. I don't buy that. I can't buy that. Not just because there's so much wrong with the world, but because it seems to benefit the people who say that there's nothing wrong with the world the most. I said before, earlier, that I think my mother chooses to identify as a pagan, in opposition to Christian forces that she understands to be oppressive. Me being a misotheist is taking that a step further. Not just having a neutral position as opposed to a positive position, but having a directly opposed position. Instead of the world being made right, and people being wrong, the world is wrong. There are things wrong with the world that need to be fixed. And we won't be able to fix those things until the people in power are no longer in power. God is never literally God. God can be an idea. God can be some kind of group think, some kind of shared value system. God can even be an actual literal person. Go down to hell and ask Jim Jones about that sometime. But in every instance, I am going to be opposed to a society that does harm to people. Not just a society that does harm to people for no reason, because there usually tend to be reasons. Cultural reasons, philosophical reasons. You think Trump is torturing children at the border for no reason? No. He's doing it because he enjoys it. And it's those things that I'm opposing. It's those things, not the people, but those ideas that I have dedicated my life to rooting out and destroying. Because those are the things that hurt people. Editing around here. Just finishing up work on the video. A couple of things. First off, I want to reaffirm that my hostility towards God does not extend to the followers of God. Like, I've known good Christian people. I work with good Christian people quite frequently as an activist. There's a man here in Springfield named Martin Wolf, who every time something comes up where someone needs to stand up for civil rights, he's there. He was actually in the video of the protest that I uploaded, where we're calling for Trump's impeachment. He was one of the first people to speak at that event. And every time something comes up, whether it's a reproductive health care thing, whether it's an equal marriage thing, whether it's a BLM thing, he's always there. And he has a congregation that he leads too, and he's always telling these people that, you know, we need to be good to our neighbors, we need to take care of each other. And that's good. I don't think... The way I've explained it to him before is I don't believe in his God, but I believe in him, and I'm going to help him as much as I can. Second thing, I said the Westborough Baptist Church was right about God, and I mean a specific thing when I say that. I'm going to clarify. So, the Westborough Baptist Church has very specific beliefs. They believe that God is petty and vindictive because it says in the Bible that God is petty and vindictive. That's the first commandment. They also believe that God wants them to tell everyone that they are burning in hell, that they are going to burn in hell. Like, they don't go out and screech at people, you know, to help them come towards salvation. They go out and screech at people because their God literally commands them to. And something I would contend is that these beliefs are a reflection of things that were happening in the real world, things that have been happening in the real world. Like, the same year that I had to deal with, the same year that me and my family had to deal with being pestered by these moral degenerates at the Westborough Baptist Church, President George W. Bush was talking about adding a constitutional amendment to ban gay marriage. Their beliefs were not, at the time, their beliefs were not, like, way out of line. Their beliefs were mainstream. They were just much more vocal and much more hostile in expressing those beliefs. Ultimately, the Westborough Baptist Church supports people in power, people who are already in power. And they do that under the pretext that they are going to assume power at some time. That's what I mean when I say that their beliefs serve a function. So this is the first full month my channel has been active where I've been receiving financial compensation for making videos. And in that time I've received a little over $200 from people. And wow, that's more than I was expecting. That's significantly more than I was expecting this early on. And I'm especially grateful to those people who donated after the sewer backed up. Like, that was not my intention. I wasn't trying to ask for donations. I thought it was hilarious. I have a Kafkaesque sense of humor. But, like, I'm blown away by how it was very kind. It was unreasonably kind of you to give me money to buy stuff to clean up the basement here. And I've done that. And I bought soda and pizza with the money left over. Thank you for that very much. And thank you also to anyone who's been viewing and sharing my videos. I know that those people are out there because I talk to them from time to time. I talk to them when I can. I've been very, very busy this last month or so. Just recently. Not just with making videos and stuff, but like, things just keep coming up. I've had to interrupt my schedule more than once. This video was kind of rushed. I feel like it's not as high quality as it should be. And I sincerely apologize for that, but things just keep coming up. Next month, I have an idea for what I'm going to do next month. But it might be contentious. There's been this discussion in the sort of left-tube community for the last couple of weeks about how we can make the community more inclusive. And I think I'm going to do my part to help that along. I'm going to try and talk about issues that specifically affect people of color. That's going to be contentious coming from, a white guy. But I feel like I have enough experience doing community stuff that I can do that. And I'm also going to get advice from people who I know who are people of color. Obviously, I'm going to do that. But, yeah, I think that's something that I can do to further that goal, to make people of color feel more safe in our community. I think that's everything I have to say. Yeah, that's all of it. Not sure what the next video is going to be yet. I still need to write all those scripts. No, I do know what the next video is going to be. The next video is going to be the video about cops that I never fucking made. It's going to be the video about why cops are racist. And, yeah, that script is ready, but I need to write the other 3 scripts. So, next video is going to be about how cops are necessarily racist, and maybe what we can do about that. So, until we get there, take care of yourselves, alright? And thank you again for all of your support. Thank you so much.